And Al Ray Sr. was skipper from 1945 to 1946 at the Hotel Carlswright, which was formerly the Grand Union, and it's now a parking lot. And it is on the left, you've got a postcard, and on the right, you have a postcard as well. And there are two hotels on the postcard at the right. I don't know exactly where it was located. Maybe Simcoe Street.
New York.
Where?
The one on the left is Trenton, New York.
Front and York. Well, that's the Walker House, which isn't the same place. It's the Hotel Carlswright. And the picture at the top right is the dining room. So we were eating in style, I think, at that time.
Yeah, he was quite a character. Al was quite a character at Regatta's. He's a funny guy and a centerpiece at every regatta.
That's fantastic. And I did talk with Al Ray Jr. and he couldn't find a picture of his father, which kind of surprised me. But in any event, no, we didn't have a picture of him. And then Laurie Muir Sr. was skipper from 1946 to 47 at the Hotel Municipal located on Queen Street. And so you got the hotel at the right, which is actually the right building in that picture. And then above there, you've got Laurie Muir Jr. and Al Ray Jr. And they were a sailing team on Aphrodite in 1951 at QCYC. And at the Hotel Barclay at Front and Young, we had skippers Doug Armour, 1948-49, and Paul McLaughlin, who's pictured there, 49-50, and he was receiving a Canada jacket for the Olympics in that picture. And there we have the Hotel Barclay at Young and Front. And then we had the Colonial Tavern. A lot of skippers there. Jim Mitchell, Aaron Gorman, John Mason. I have a picture of John Mason at the top right, I think. I made a guess at some of these. Bill Gooderham in 1948, and that picture was taken at the same time as the one in the previous of Paul McLaughlin. And he too was receiving a jacket for the Olympics. Gord Brown, Murray Crawford, Bill McCrae, who is at the right again, I think. The Colonial was located at 201-203 Yonge Street. It opened in 1947 and it was demolished in 1987 and is now a parquet. You probably know that parquet on Yonge Street. You can just see the two banks on either side of it in the top left picture. And I think those are still there, and between it is the parquet. And then the Prince George Hotel at King and York. And skippers during that time were Paul Phelan, Lou Pickett, Ed Lawless, Arnold Ducklin, Bill Good, and Dave Morris. And John Angeline was telling me today that Paul Phelan owned Cara Boots, I think that's what it was called, and he opened the first Swiss chalet in the city. Yeah. And the Lord Simcoe Hotel in the Maple Room, the northeast corner of King and University. Skippers then were Peter Van Busker. And it was an unclear here. Peter was 1966-68, and then from 68 to 71, Peter and the Shellbacks were in the Maple Room, but I'm not sure if the Maple Room was in that hotel. And Peter was a member of the Water Rats and Outer Harbor Sailing Club, as were Paul Henderson and Bill Gooderham. And some of you may know the water rats. Yes, John, you have something to add?
Yeah, Peter Van Busker, also general manager for a number of years of the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, and he's a third cousin of me.
Of John Angelon. And the Hotel Victoria at 56 Yonge Street. We have skippers there from 1971 to 83. And the only one whose picture I have is Chuck Peterson. And I think I knew Gord Proctor, and of course I knew Bob Townsend and David Kerr. So at the Hotel Victoria, we were there for a good long time, 12 years.
Go back to the second name, Harry Roman. I crewed with him for 18 years. And he was on the Olympic team in '68.
Wow.
He was a backup skipper.
So some of our skippers have quite a background to them. And at the Nag's Head Tavern, and that's where I first got involved with Shellbacks, David Kerr, Charles Leggatt, and Charles Leggatt and Richard Burchell, and then Don Stark, and I don't have a picture of Don Stark, I'm sorry. So on the right, we have the Nag's Head, and it was on York Street, just above Front Street, a stone's throw from where I was working at the time at Air Canada on Front Street. And that, of course, is the logo on the top right. Come on, baby, there we are. And then we went to Captain John's, and we were there from 1981 and 2000 to 2006. And Bruce Anderson was the skipper from 89 to 92. Not according to the list I have. Okay, well, just a second. I think that no, that we were at national at the in-between times from 92 to 2000 or something like that. It'll come up. Okay. And Al Ray Jr. and Don Gallagher and Joel from 2002 to 2006. But just going back there for a minute, we have Captain John's matchbook cover there, again on sale, for sale on eBay. And then we were at the RCYC from 2006 to 2020. And we had Richard Grebeldinger there for 1 year, Jim Taylor for 8 years. And then I came in 2015 to 2020. And on 2020 to 22, we were on Zoom. And Noel, if I'm wrong there, we'll make a change on this at another time. And we were at the National, and maybe this is what it is here. We were at National from 1991 to 2000, and from 22 to present day. And we had Bruce Anderson, and Al Ray Jr. and myself. And at the bottom right there, you'll see a picture of Al Ray Jr. as a baby, and there's a little note here from Al. And he says, I have a theory that we all create a mythology around our own creation. My theory is that I was conceived aboard a snipe by nimble parents. This concept of a waterborne origin seems most appropriate, as I was born in 1936 under the sign of Pisces, and am the son of a legendary skipper known in every port on Lake Ontario. That skipper was Al Ray. I'm Al Ray Jr. and proud to be. And now I need some help here. We've got a whole pile of activities that the Shellbacks have done, the spring thaw luncheons, the annual luncheons, the rump, retired unique maritime personalities, and excursions. And I don't have them all, but these are some of the ones we did, and I have dug out some pictures from some of them. So Brookman's Yachts in Mississauga, the Sagan on Lake Rosso, the Big Wind Island with lunch at Cleveland's house. That was a wonderful trip we sailed. Oh, was it not at Cleveland's house? That's what I have in my file. Okay, we'll have to make that change. Thank you. Port Dover Harbor Museum, the HMCS Nancy at Wasaga Beach, Discovery Harbor at Penetanguishene, Peterborough Canoe Club, Playfair, at the Royal Hamilton Yacht Club, and the Art Gallery of Ontario last year. Now, the picture is where I need the help. I don't know. I think the name of the person besides Don Stark is Lou, but I don't know his last name. And also the picture beside the fellow beside Noel. I don't know who that is either.
Yeah, so probably is.
Okay. Well, that's me.
Yeah, I know.
Don Stark, that's Lou Don.
Lou who?
Gallagher.
Don Gallagher and Lou who?
Don.
How do you spell the last name?
D-O-N.
D-O-N.
Yeah.
Lou Don. Okay.
Jack Knight.
Dianne Webb.
Charlie in the back.
David Mulholland and Bob Gleesby.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
Okay.
Don Gallagher and Lou Don.
Lou Don, yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And Jack Knight.
And Jack Knight, yeah.
Or me.
And of course you. And so I've got a few of the excursions here, pictures from the excursions. So take a look, you may catch yourself in there. I did put some names up, but I didn't put all the names up because I didn't know everybody. So there's the HMCS Nancy in Port Dover and the Peterborough Museum. This thing is intermittent when it works. Okay, and here we've got this the day we went sailing on the Pathfinder. And I caught a few people there whose names I knew. I think this is Lori Rennie and his wife here, and Jim, I think you're Jim Winslow, I think you're there. But I don't know the name of the woman in the pink jacket up at the top. Or the person who's with Richard Burchell.
So they have 16 meetings.
Come on, baby. Oh, and then it went twice. I thought I had more excursions than that. Okay. And then we go into the speakers, and I calculated that we've had more than 2,000 speakers since 1934, which is quite amazing. Yeah. And so Judith did, she did seafarers in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Sean Bath and Stoney and Whalen, if you remember, in Newfoundland, they were cleaning out the harbors. Liz Benian, the Trumpeter Swans in Port Credit. Bill Bielkowski, he did the Canadian Naval Aviator since 1914. And he also did a workshop or a presentation on the planes that landed on the boats. And one of them that missed the end and went over the end. Richard Burchell did humorous tales and shanties. Gord Champion did a workshop on the Trillium and finding it in the swampy area of Toronto Island and the refurbishing of it. Francis Clegg was captain of the Briggs program, and he did a presentation on that. John and Laura Poole sailing on Genevieve. Danielle Doggett building the three-masted wooden schooner Seba. I keep trying to get her back, but she's very, very busy. Michael Kane cruising from Florida to Belize via Cuba and Mexico. Of course, the Millards, many presentations with Audrey Fenton on the Go Home Run. Richard Hudson spoke 6 times, including to Patagonia. Jamie Hunter and Rosemary Vivian, the history of the Wabano, legend and lore. And then Rory Fisher, the siege of Malta. Marina Fryer Gormley, automated solar powered water treatment systems sailors can use. Thank you to your daughter there. It's wonderful. Brian Gooderman, 106 years of sailing on Lake Ontario. Doreen Green, cruising from Moscow to St. Peter. Mark and Karen Harwood sailing a decommissioned wooden lifeboat. And if you remember, that's one of the ones off the south coast of England. And Christopher Hope, the Volvo 60 on the Atlantic, and several ancient ships. Ron Jenkins, Poison Ironwork, and so many more. Thank you, Ron. Bruce Kemp, Weather Bomb, 1913, Death on the Great Lakes, and I think his book is back in the book box there. Nick Kazarevich, A Sailor's Nightmare, Rescue from the Frigid Lake. And if you remember, that was an amazing presentation, and he was very lucky to survive. Paul Lamont traveling the 4 seas of Israel, and in the fall, he's going to do cruising South India for us. Rib Mazza, I apologize, Rob Mazza, the French Canal, and he did many other presentations as well. Ross McKee, Dinghies and Arthur Ransom. And I just want to read you a little something that I found in the file. Which I found really interesting. Ross McKee is a lawyer by trade, but has been messing about in boats since his teenage years through associations with the Canadian Forces Sailing, Leith Yacht Racing Club, Cottage Sailing, the Water Rats, and most recently the RCYC. Sails of Venerable Laser, and now in a more comfortable CNC Corvette. And I'm not sure if he's still racing, but his heart still lies in dinghies. He regularly rereads the books of Arthur Ransom and has delighted in introducing his 3 children to them, as well as his nieces and nephews. So Arthur Ransom, if none of you have read any of Arthur Ransom's books, I would highly recommend them. They're lots of fun. Charles read them as a child, and so did my first husband, Roger. And at the right, we have Gord Lacko on the HMCS Boreal, and he did several other presentations, not the least of which was the one where he talked about rigging the old ships for movies. And then, of course, we've got Sally and Noel, and here they're on Kalinka from Chatham to New Ross. They have spoken with us for many a time, and we thank you for that, both of you. All right. And then we get into Zoom. We had Aurelie O'Brien from the Age of Sail Museum in Port Grenville, Nova Scotia, and Judith Rolls from the States doing Lighthouses of the Delaware. Lawrence Rennie and Phil Dawkins behind the scenes on cruise ships, and they're going to do another presentation for us in the fall. Kristen Tilley did Waterkeepers, the navigation project, and helped Mark Matson launch the Lake Ontario Waterkeeper in 2001. And I believe it's now called Fish, Eat, Swim. And Karen Tieran, all-women sailing expedition on the Pacific Ocean to study microplastics. And of course, Melody Schaffer, the Transjacque Weber race, plus many others. And Jim Pound came and joined us with a trip on the Nile. And now, because of the technology, we have videos available online. And there we have Shellbacks on Zoom. Julia kindly took that picture for me. And so you can see it working. And here, these next few are just Shellback's members. Elaine Milne, Karen Larson, no longer with us, Phil and Ann Moore.
Actually, you think you know.
Dalton Spencer, Ann and Mrs. Spencer, and I don't remember her first name. And there's Sally Les and Ann Wynn, Wayne Douglas, Wayne's girlfriend, whose name I don't remember, Sally and John Dunford, and Julia and Ian McAllister, who was Sailor of the Year in 2007. Wayne Ray, Charles Leggatt, Derek and Daryl Tidd. Derek was launching a boat in that particular picture. I mean, a book, beg your pardon. Janet Schumacher and I going across to RCYC for lunch. Jim and Margaret Taylor on Sagan, Lake Rosso, so I got it right there. And Steve and David Mulholland. And Norma Wilson and my sister, Nancy Clark, at Moose Mill. And I don't remember the name of the fellow at the top left. I know I should, but I don't remember his name. Do you know that, Margaret or Bill? And then we have table groups of the Springfield luncheon. And there we have Alf Jenkins up at the top, and George and Ruth Stowe, and Bob Anglin, and of course Moira Haney and Elspeth Amjoy. Does anybody remember who those two are on the left? I know that they came to Shellbacks quite a lot. And here, Duncan Green, Mary McNamara, Dave Matthews, Skipper Owl, and Barbara McNutt, who was at Wren, and she also did a presentation about the Wrens in the Second World War, and Richard Burchell, of course. And these are the people to whom we've donated over the years. Mission to Seafarers, Brisbane Sailing, Rod Reach, Swimfish Eat, Able Sailors, Toronto Food Bank, Covenant House, among others. And there we have it.
One thing Dianne forgot there's one thing Dianne forgot to mention. He is the first female skipper to Shellbacks.
Thank you, thank you. Oh, okay, Ron, you have something?
Thank you, Dianne, for all your work. That must have been quite a bit. What I'll do is I'll make a directory of videos that are on the Shellback website.
Excellent.
With links, and you could send it out as a PDF. People don't have to sort of browse through pages.
Perfect, perfect.
So it'd be like the table of contents, sort of. I think that'll help people if they want to find things.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Mr. McNaught.
We have two water rats. And it's at the side of the water rats of the Olympics. Yeah, I had a fin as well.
Better if they come up to the top.
I had a fin. That better?
No, better if they come up to the front.
I had a fin as my first boat before I looked it up at the library. It said fin on a boat for the expert. So that's where I started from. But I was a student at university, didn't have a lot of money to go to all the regattas. So I had someone weld some angle iron onto a small boat trailer to make it a double trailer. And then my boat had to be on the bottom in case it got rear ended. But I would then drive for people who got transportation money to go to regattas. Well, my trailer went off for the trials for the 72 Olympics in Halifax. And I got a phone call after the trials from John Eastwood, who said, McNaughton, the CYA wants to charter your trailer. And I said, why? He said, it's gone to the Olympics. They were loading boats at Shearwater into Air Force planes that just happened to be the flying hours that would be accounted for by a flight to Kiel and a flight back. So they happened to be there. And father of one of the Finn sailors was the Minister of Defense. So it was amazing how all the boats that won were suddenly loaded up and taken up. And they realized they had a pipe. So they whipped the fin off one of the trailers, put it on my trailer, put an extra fin on, and sent it off to Europe. So I did. I said, well, I don't know, $100 or something. Well, I had been a sort of unofficial member of the water rat because I showed up to work and wait around and cement stuff was being poured. And that's where people who sail fins in the time, that's where a lot of them were. So I therefore joined the water rat, which was $100. The water rat gave the $100 as a donation to the Olympics. And Paul Henderson then went around to other yacht clubs saying, look, these guys sailing on the beach in Toronto have given $100 to the Olympics. How much are you guys going to give? And that $100 going in the circle was parlayed into about $5,000 or $6,000.
That's a fantastic story. Water rats, I think, were quite significant in many ways in Toronto sailing. We have a comment here, Julia.
Dianne, that was a very well done slideshow. Less photographs are more useful per page, right? And what an awful lot of time and research you put in. I know that for a fact.
Thank you.
And by the way, congratulations for being the first woman skipper. That's fantastic for us all.
Thank you, Julia. And I have a few notes here from Skipper Al, who was hoping to be here, but he had an unchangeable medical appointment. So here are some thoughts. As you know, Dad was a Shellback stalwart for many years. He served as skipper in 1946 when I was 10 years old. He had his name engraved on our historic brass bell as Al Ray Sr., just in case Junior would eventually join the list of skippers, which eventually came to pass. But he went to the great cockpit in the sky. I felt Shellback was his alone. Of note, Shellback purchased a pair of brass riding lights in his memory. These hung proudly in the Marine Museum until they were mothballed with the rest of the treasures when that worthy institution was closed. I hope they will see the light of day in the not too distant future. So I was not a Shellback until Bob Townsend convinced me to come and present a concept for a sailing center overlooking the harbor. When he introduced me, Paul McLaughlin said, Al Ray always told a joke. So I countered with, Newfie in New York riding a bicycle down Fifth Avenue with no hands as he was knitting a sweater. The New York cop took exception and shouted, hey, you, pull over. No man responded the Newfie. It's a cardigan. Oh, I wonder. That a boom and a rim shot, please. Just, yes, right. Maybe I should have read that before so I could give the pauses better than I did. Anywho, the crew laughed and I was welcomed on board. So many memories, just a few wonderful characters, skippers, Charles, of course, Bob Levy, Richard Burchell and supporting crew, David Hunter, Marjorie, Rick, Alf Jenkins, and Captain Jack at the piano to accompany the traditional shanty. Dinners at the Military Institute, too worthy of historical note, my interviewing George Cuthbertson, and the following year, George C. interviewing Olin Stevens, two of the most important yacht designers of our time. Both were recorded and in the archives of RCYC and the Marine Museum of the Great Lakes. The wide range of speakers who often held us in awe as they described their adventures at sea and how they dealt with them. My 60th birthday, while I was skipper, I was presented with a cake, flaming candles cinched my eyebrows while blowing them out. An annual dinner at the Boulevard Club with historian Maurice Smith as guest speaker. He covered the colorful history of shellbacks and closed with a photo of the man he deemed the epitome of shellback, my dad. And you for taking over the helm these many years ago and continuing to chart a safe, entertaining passage for the crew aboard the good ship Shellbacks. Long may your jib draw full and by. Thank you. Fair winds. Al Ray, Emeritus.